Welcome back to the channel, and of course, this is Mr. B, and we want to take a look at another issue that has been giving us some concerns, certainly over the last couple of weeks, and this has to do with the mounting crime issues again plaguing Jamaica. Now, of course, the Holness administration having put some crime initiatives in place at the beginning of the year that seem to have worked. And let me go beyond that. That has worked because they succeeded in reducing the Jamaica's problematic murder rate from some 12, 1,300 lives lost to this malady per year to a figure that has dropped by some 46%. I think year to date, the Jamaica's murder tally is running some 500 and not, as opposed to where it would have been in the previous year of more than 1,000 people live being taken. And so, with election behind us, the election was run off on the 3rd of September. This was one of the issues that I believe the administration campaigned on and did that successfully. Now we are watching the scourge quietly crawling up, and and there are some problems. But this week, the week started out with the troubling, traumatic incident that took place in Linstead in St. Catherine, which resulted in the loss of lives of some 5 people, including a 4-year-old child, and the injury to another 4 when gunmen invaded a premises early Sunday night, 8 o'clock thereabouts, and shut up the place. And it just makes you wonder: have we returned to this kind of situation? Now, the incident itself is traumatic because what it has done is that it has left some 4, well, firstly, it has left families, a number of families traumatized by the development, and in addition to that, the community is completely traumatized and shattered. And of course, while we're looking at this story, it is unfolding against what I call an uneasy backdrop, where the police, while celebrating the drop in murders, are themselves being accused of extrajudicial killings. Now, year to date, the Jamaican police have been responsible for the deaths of some 240 Jamaican men, young men, and many of them under questionable circumstances. And I think the incident that basically shone some light on this was the September 15 police shooting at Cherry Tree Lane community, which resulted in the loss of the life of Jamar Farquharson. Now, according to the reports, there were some 20-odd police officers went on a raid, and it appears from, as we look at the reports coming through, that they seem to have gone to the wrong house. The police went in, they knocked on his door. Farquharson came out because the family seemed to have had a camera in their home, and it recorded him going to the door. He had nothing in his hands. When he opened the door and realized it was the police, he put his 2 hands up. And at the end of the exercise, we saw where the police came into the house. They seemed to have gone through. But at the end of the police exercise, Farquharson is dead. And the video report, the police report suggested that he had pulled a firearm or reached for a firearm, and they responded by taking his life. Now, this incident itself was followed by several other incidents. There's one there's one in Kingston, there's another one in St. Elizabeth that had the same outcome. That the police report is suggesting that the individual pulled a firearm on armed policemen with long guns, like you see in the video here. And it kind of make you wonder if we have a population of young men who are either crazy or the police is lying. Well, the Jamar Farkison video showed that the police is lying, and we're still not sure where the police is going because nobody seemed to have been charged for these incidents. And so the bottom line is we are in a kind of a crisis, if you will, with respect to the way how the police is carrying out its duties. And it looks like if we're not careful, it's going to kick back and affect the way how the police crime management initiative announced by the Prime Minister at the beginning of the year, the outcomes of these things. Because once you start to have to question the work of the police, we're in trouble. Now, the statistics show, as I said before, that murders have declined dramatically over 2025, which is a rare achievement in Jamaica for a very, very long time. And this is a country that is haunted by violence. Beneath the numbers, though, lies a troubling question. At what cost is this peace being achieved? Because the very same police force credited with bringing down the murder numbers is now being accused of taking lives outside of the law. And I want us to be clear that the Jamaican police are fighting a war that few of us can truly understand. Every day they face heavily armed criminals, ruthless gangs, and communities that sometimes fear the police more than they fear the gunmen. But when we have to appreciate that when law enforcement people cross the line, when citizens die under suspicious circumstances, and when justice becomes selective, the moral foundation of the police begins to crumble. You can't build trust, which is a major element in terms of how the police work and police success. You cannot build that trust on the graves of the innocent. It is not sufficient that we try to excuse off these police killings, questionable killings, with the argument that these young men may have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Police have the responsibility to protect the very citizens, right? That is the job of the police, protect and to serve. And so when these questions, it's bad enough that the questions are arising. What is more critical is that we now live in an age where the technology has been extended to the people on the street. And it seems a lot of these people are prepared to protect themselves. They're putting cameras in their homes. And it is these cameras that is now showing that the policing activities that is responsible for clearly bringing down the Jamaica's murder rate, which is something that we have to do, is to bring that down, because the level of personal security, national security, impacts almost everything else in our lives. But you cannot build that on the backs or on the graves of innocent people, right? Now, of course, we have Indicom that is out there trying to shine some light on this whole thing. Their job is to bring some transparency. The reality is, though, that based on what we have seen taking place over the year, that some of these policemen, it would appear, or these police patrols, are operating as if they are above the law. The result is that there's a growing public perception that justice in Jamaica depends on who is holding the firearm, whether they are a criminal or they are a cop. Now, this Linstead problem, this Linstead development is bad because it runs against the grain of the successes that the police have been claiming. And yes, it maybe just one incident. In fact, a couple of days before that, there was another similar shooting incident in Kingston, which resulted in the loss of lives of 2 people. So what we're seeing is some sort of a ratcheting up of these efforts. So our reality is that there are just too many guns in the country, too many illegal guns coming in. The picture on the screen there shows a selection of high-powered weapons, and of course, all guns are high-powered weapon anyway. But there is one sort of wonders. Some 230 odd guns were detected in a consignment at a warehouse in Tivoli Gardens early in the year, and to date we have not heard of anybody being arrested and charged for this. And of course, that shipment was accompanied by thousands of rounds of assorted ammunition. There were multiple finds of guns at the Montego Bay ports. In at least half a dozen instances where more than 30 to 50 firearms were detected in consignments coming into the country. And in maybe only 2 of the instances have we heard that somebody has been arrested. A big problem is these guns. Somebody is making a lot of money by shipping weapons into the country. And keep in mind that according to the police statistics, for every shipment that they detect, find, there is probably 7 or 8 that may have gotten through. So it sort of gives you an idea of the gravity of the Jamaica situation. And so we have some serious challenges as a country that we have to deal with. The question is how many more of our nationals have to lose their lives, right? Before Jamaicans who are responsible for these kinds of actions realize that we are basically destroying our own population. At the same time, we need to challenge the people that govern us, that yes, we understand that the police have to take some strong action, but it is the view of this column that what Jamaica need isn't more police firepower. What the country need is more trust, more accountability, and a policing model that protects rights while preserving life. Real security doesn't come from fear. It comes from justice. And until we fix the deep divide between our police and our people, every so-called victory against crime will remain fleeting and fragile. Our reality is that the police also need the support of the public to provide them with information, right? We cannot afford to have any more of these Jamar Farquharson kind of situations. Of course, if the police being challenged, they have a right to defend themselves. But when the police is destroying the lives of innocents, we are in trouble. Cherry Tree Lane is just a marker, right? But at the same time, the Linstead incident tells you that we're not yet out of the woods. The job of the police is challenging, right? So, and as we mourn the lives of the people lost in Linstead, including that of that innocent 4-year-old child, we need to demand a better balance as Jamaicans. A Jamaica where safety doesn't require sacrificing our humanity, where justice is not the privilege, not for the privilege of the powerful, but the right of every citizen. Because if we must trade justice for peace, then the question is, what kind of peace are we really fighting for? And so, beg the question, is it that the Andrew Holness crime initiative is falling apart? Is it that there are cracks? And how do we address that, because at the end of the day, every life lost is a life lost to the productive side of the country and the future of the country, and we have to take a bigger stance. Tell me what you think about what I said, and let me have your comments in the comment section. If you have not yet signed up for the channel, do that. Share the video with your friends, and but certainly let me hear your comments in the feedback, in the comment section. Big respect.